All right. What's up, y'all? My name is Evan Strong. This is In the Image Clothing Company Music. I am the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, which is a company where we address the human body's natural function. The key word that we always use is allow the body to work. Our bodies only do what they do, and we live in a modern 2025 where there's a lot of things there wasn't in the past, and a lot of man-made things is really the point, where a natural body, just like you think about an animal and how it's just going to interact with nature, you place an animal in our man-made world and it's, going to have problems with its physical function because it's not meant to be on such unnatural materials like the flooring and the things that we interact with. But the thing is with the human body is it's different than animals because we place clothing on us basically always, and that really alters our bodies to a great degree. If it's not centered, if it's not just fitting and sitting where the body has its rotations and the positions that it hinges and moves. So yes, we have this company where we address mostly clothing and we just make it work for the human being. But we also have two other sides besides our main side of the company with the anatomy of the human body. And we have this side here, In the Image Clothing Company Music, where we discuss music, setups of instruments to allow the same thing to happen, right? You're going to take your body and do little fine motor skills like this with your hands to play a guitar. You need to do that in the position your hand is going to work in, and not some other kind of position where it's just like not going to work properly. So another third of us is In the Image Clothing Company podcast, where we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. So you can check out the thirds of the company if you'd like to. And yeah, this is Frank the guitar. Frank the guitar is a little Yamaha CGS 102A. He has a custom radius that I did, a little bit of a rounding to the whole thing from the saddle, the fretboard, and the nut. And I mentioned how that's so important because our hands are round. Like I was mentioning at the beginning, we live in such a flat world, but the whole body will be affected from the hand if it's not allowed to be rounded, just because that's the only way that it actually works. So within this video, what I'm going to discuss is the neutral wrist of the body, okay? So we have a neutral wrist. Neutral and natural are synonyms when it comes to the human body and discussing its function, because naturally we would dwell within a neutral position, and then if we need to do something, we can go like out of that neutral position to do whatever we need to do in our lives. But there's that neutral wrist that's just straight out from our pinky, like this, right? Neutral wrist. And when we play guitars, we really need to just keep our wrist angle as close to that neutral position as we can. But that also includes this way too, where we're not like rotating the wrist this way, or especially this way, because that's what's normally happening on guitars is they're rotated like this. So under In the Image Clothing Company Music, I have a video titled Full Nylon String Guitar Setup, where I go pretty quickly, but I do go over everything that is needed within a nylon string guitar to just allow the body to work and be unaltered. So you can check that out if you'd like to. But within this video, I am really going to just kind of give a visual of what that neutral wrist really looks like, what it means to keep your body in a position where it can have a neutral wrist without having to like try, because we're not going to do that. We're not going to try to get our bodies to do anything. We can only just allow them to do the only things they're designed to do, and they're just actually very simple, and they only do what they do. So Frank here is a half-sized guitar. It's not actually literally like half the length, like if you measure the whole thing as a full-sized classical guitar would be, but the type of guitar, that's what it's called. If you look up guitars anywhere, you look them up or go to a guitar shop and you just look for a half-sized guitar, that's what I would say is the ideal for anybody, even if you're a full-grown adult, because I'm 6'2" tall. definitely a full-grown adult. And this is the ideal size, okay? Because the whole thing is just watch that pinky. If you look straight out from your forearm, like when I lay my arm across the top of the strings right here, straight down from that forearm, straight out's the pinky. And so we need to be at that angle with what we're doing. And look where I am here, playing a little half-size guitar. Now, what'll happen so too often, because anytime that it happens is too often, is people will be playing a guitar that's big, right? Full size, and now you're out here. Now look at my wrist on this side, and over here, neutral wrist, end of the fretboard, now you're here. But this is more like out this way, because the body of the guitar is also larger on a full-size guitar. And so people are playing, and I'm gonna set Frank right here for just a second. People are taking their neutral wrists from here, and they're going to here. Then you're gonna ruin your whole body. I was gonna start to like get into detail of what's happening, but there's no need within this video to discuss like all the anatomy of exactly what's happening and the rotations and in which muscles are being inhibited and the positions of things. No, there's no need to like fully explain it, other than if the wrist is straight from here and your pinkies are straight out so it can bend straight in, and your other fingers are just going to bend straight in and out from a neutral wrist, then any position that's not neutral, look where my fingers are bending. And see how my arm moves up? I can't just keep my arm in the same spot, well, even if the fretboard wasn't in the way, and bend my fingers, because then everything just cramps up all through here because things are hitting into each other. They only work in line, which is straight out from that pinky right here, just closing just like this. And so take that, put on your guitar, and there you go. Now, classical guitarists, quote unquote, traditionally like sitting similar to something like this. To a degree, you have a neutral wrist on your right hand, kind of, and that's kind of the intent. But this left hand, look at this. And now not only look at that position of my wrist, rather than neutral, right? But think about the size that I said Frank is. You get a full-sized classical guitar, now you're about here and even farther tweaked with your wrist, and you see it, right? You can watch any classical guitarist or yourself if you are one, and that's what you're looking like. And again, the entire body is in pain because the hand is essentially the shoulder, and the shoulders then will travel through the whole body. The hands relate directly with the arches in your feet, and so now your feet, which are supporting you, even when you're sitting, the feet naturally are activated. And even here, even though the bottoms of my feet aren't on the ground, they're still activated within the muscles of them, and it's supporting my whole body, even though only like the back of my heel is on the ground. Yeah, that's how the body works. It only works as a whole. And so here you are with that neutral wrist, okay? Now, another really big thing that will affect that neutral wrist is the stringing, because if all the strings are being wrapped from just the same side, then you're going to take this neutral wrist that wants to just grip like this, all the fingers together, right? Straight out from the pinky, in a good position here, rather than excessively large, right? Good position here, just like, I mean, watch the shoulder. When you go to a full-size guitar, you know, the shoulders are just here, and then the shoulders stay there with the wrist being neutral. Like I said, the hand is essentially the shoulder. So anytime your hand's tweaked, so will your shoulder be. So here you are, neutral, neutral. But then if your strings are pulling your body down like this, now you've taken your shoulder way out of its neutral position, and your wrist as well, even though it seems pretty well even, it's like excessively down. Because that's what's happening when you're wrapping the strings from the bottom, which is what's most common to do. That's what I've seen by far the most. All the strings are then pulling down, and you want the ends of your fingers to come together. And so when the thumb is like pulling the same direction as the fingers in a sense, they're not coming together anymore. and you want them to be like here. Yeah, the thumb can come out like this because it's separate from the direction the other fingers work with. But really the point of the thumb is to work in conjunction with the fingers on the pads. And so my stringing technique, which you can find under In the Image Clothing Company Music, how to string a nylon string guitar. I'll show you it here because this is just what it is. But we wrap the strings from the opposite sides, right? So the bass ones get wrapped from this side and the treble ones get wrapped from this side. And then up here, everything gets pulled slightly out at the headstock as well, just so everything's going out, and that way your wrist is staying very well in line and neutral, and there's all those finger pads coming together, okay? Just as if you're doing anything as a human being with your hand, right? Because we're not going to be doing things the way that all the strings are pulling us down, like this, because then what's the point of an opposable thumb if it's not working with the fingers to grab, right? So there we go. That's really how you're actually going to keep a neutral wrist when you play guitar, and any other way it's just not going to happen. I probably sound a little bit like I'm so right with some of the things that I talk about, but it's because I am. And the reason I can say it so boldly is because I've gone through so much pain trying like basically any other combination of these kind of things that you could just even possibly do, and it's going to damage your body. So yeah, what I say within In the Image Clothing Company is don't believe me. Don't just take my word for something out of like, well, he sounds like he knows what he's talking about, so I'm just going to blindly do it. I'm going to say, yeah, I definitely know what I'm talking about with this, but try it before you have a judgment, and don't only do it because I say, right? I mean, just have your own personal experience with it. So there we go. That's what we're going to do to allow the wrist to stay neutral. And then all the things as well within the setup video that I have that I mentioned, because the angles of things, as I was showing, can also affect the wrist in a rotation type of way. So just keeping things even height, right? From E to E. So that neutral wrist, immensely important. Otherwise, it's not about the guitar playing, but it's about the rest of your life, because you'll sit there in an incorrect position doing little fine motor skills, and what you've done is actually trained your hand to work like this. And now you go through your life out of your neutral wrist rather than in that neutral wrist position where it would naturally be because of guitar. So everything we do just as a human being, it transfers over and it travels into the rest of our existence as a human, because we're using the same body to play guitar as we are to go now eat some food. And now you're going to be eating like this, and that's going to just, going to do things that we discuss on the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. So there we go. Neutral wrist, right? Straight out from that pinky. Well, just like I'm sitting here. Because that's what I'm saying, is it should always be neutral unless we go like out of that position to like do something specific, but then we come back to it. All right, the body just has a center, it has a neutral in everything, all the joints, all the positions and rotations that it has, and there we go. And the thing with the half-size guitar is, even if your capoed clear up here, close to halfway up the fretboard on the 5th fret, look, still neutral and still neutral, because the whole point is coming to the center of us. If you're out here, things are going to be different than if you're just right in front of you. Now you're centered, right? The neutral wrist really is the center of the body. And so the farther out you get from that, you're going to be altering it more the farther you get. So, right, everything just comes back to the center of the body, because that's what has to stabilize the extremities of the body. And so the smaller you get, really, even if you had a really, really, really small little guitar, that's actually very beneficial. So that's why the 5th fret is actually a really good spot to be, because you're just neutral. I mean, here you are, neutral, neutral, because you're closer to your center. When your hands come together, they're neutral in the center of the human being. So there we go. I understand people love to play full-sized guitars. I understand that there's reasons to do it that seem appealing. But nothing can be more appealing to you than allowing your body to do its only function, unless you're okay with dealing with physical pain. And that's just what will happen. Absolutely unavoidable if you do play a guitar that's too large. So neutral wrist has to happen. Another big thing is just the width of the strings, right? The width of the nut up here. Full-size classical guitars, they will be usually very much excessively too wide, and now you're just taking your wrist and just doing all sorts of unnatural things to try to stretch your fingers out and get to those wide spaced strings. And again, the hand just works only in line. You can't even close your hand with your fingers separated like this, so you'll just get cramping everywhere. And we should never. I don't. And I'm no different, other than I do very, very, very meticulous setup things. I could play this guitar for 3-4 hours and not get sore, not have to massage, not have to stretch. Now, it's a lot of time to just be moving the fingers, and so, you get some like fatigue in the hands probably as you play for that long, but they wouldn't get stiff, they wouldn't get sore. So no claims. I'm not trying to claim anything or trying to push like something that I think that anybody should do. That's why I say, don't believe me, but it is what it is. And the fruits of the labor, right? Our company is centered, as it says in our name, in the image of Jesus Christ. We are centered on the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that's how we know what we can trust, what we can believe is the fruits of the labor. So that's another thing, is I'm actually a really good guitarist. And so I'm not just somebody who is trying to tell you something. Please don't believe me, but please do this. Please keep your body just working the only way that it does. And that's just straight out from that pinky at that neutral wrist. Smaller guitars, the closer to the center of the body that we can get, the better. Narrower string width than a lot of full-sized guitars will have. Nice radius to keep that wrist open, because again, the fingers are round, but the fingers are essentially the wrist, just as the hand is essentially the shoulder. I mean, the whole body just works as one. So that wrist that we're talking about keeping neutral and open can only be that way if there's openness in the hand, because the fingers are allowed to be rounded with the radius that's in our strings as they go from the very bottom all the way to the very top. So there we go. Today is the 26th, as far as I'm aware, of January 2025. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. Yes, I love guitars, and I'm going to continue to play them. I am getting better, and Frank is actually helping with that so much because of his size and the setup that has been so meticulously done. As I said, I mean, it's taken me a month to get it to where it is currently, and it's worth it. So, yeah, stick around, because music's going to be huge, coming from In The Image Clothing Company, coming from me, Evan Strong. I'm not trying to make some kind of like, thing, but I just know that it will, because I actually am a really good guitarist, and, with that comes a lot of the experience that I've had to get me to where I am, which I'm sharing with people. So, yes, In The Image Clothing Company music. It's its own separate thing, even though it's entirely a part of the company as the thirds that we have. So, yeah. I love little videos like this because eternal, right? That's what we discuss within In The Image Clothing Company, is eternal, unchanging truths. Forever, this will be the way that guitars need to be for human bodies. That's it, and there's no opinion. So that's why it's so beautiful, because yeah, I mean, it could be 10, 15, 70, anywhere in between and farther on either end, years in the future, and this video will apply. So that's why I love this so much, because I'm here to share, right? I'm really here to share all that I've learned, and I've definitely learned a ton. I've learned a lot about guitars in my journey with them. So yeah, fruits of the labor, right? Just watch if you want. You don't got to, but what I'm saying is I'm good. And these are the reasons how I'm allowed to be, is the meticulous setup things to allow this, the fleshly being that we've been given, to just do the only thing that it does. So thank you.